Much in the way you would use a ruler to measure something in space, you would use a normative theory to measure some action. Normative theories are the standards by which we could judge whether an action is good or bad, wrong or right, permissible or impermissible. A theory which is normative tells you what you should and should not do. Normative ethics tells us the standards that there are to use to judge whether an action is a good action. Different normative theories tell you what you should and should not do using different rulers. They judge whether an action is permissible using a ruler that is sometimes incompatible with the ruler used by other normative theories, which also tell you what you should or should not do. Two examples of normative theories include deontology and utilitarianism. Both of those are normative theories that tell you what you should and should not do. They use different rulers. Normative theories will leave you in the dark about whether they're right or wrong. Utilitarianism is a normative theory that tells you what you should and should not do. And the thing that you should do, always, is the thing that produces the greatest good for the greatest number. Produces, creates. We're talking about consequences. For utilitarianism, consequences matter. They matter most. They're the only thing that matters. Your intentions don't matter. He who saves a fellow creature from drowning does what is morally right, whether his motive be duty or the hope of being paid for his trouble. Why you do something doesn't matter to a utilitarian. Your intentions, the reason why you did it, what you were hoping for or planning for that made you act, doesn't matter. All that matters for a utilitarian is the consequences of your action. We judge the ends, the results, the consequences. Working backwards, we use that to judge whether the action was permissible, whether it was good or right. Utilitarians want to increase pleasure and decrease pain. Anything anyone can do to make that happen for the most people affected have done the right thing. Anything you can do, even if something looks like the wrong thing to do. Doing it is fine so long as it increases the most pleasure possible and decreases the most pain possible. Another theory that tells you to do whatever it takes to increase your happiness and decrease displeasure is hedonism, which tells you at always you should be seeking pleasure. Now, utilitarianism is kind of hedonistic, but it's not egoistic, where you're supposed to seek pleasure for yourself and avoid pain for yourself. Utilitarianism is telling you to seek pleasure and avoid pain for everyone. Do the greatest good when you're thinking about the most amount of affected beings possible. Let's think about that one. Some utilitarians think that you should always do what will result in the greatest good for the most amount of people possible. Other utilitarians think that you should do what's the greatest good for the most sentient beings possible. Some utilitarians think that the right thing to do is the thing that's best for your people, like your nation. On the utilitarian standard, the standard is not the agent's own greatest happiness as an individual, but the greatest amount of happiness altogether. No reason can be given why the general happiness, general for all of us, is desirable, except that each person, so far as he believes it to be attainable, desires his own happiness. This, however, being a fact, we have not only all the proof which the case admits of, but all which it is possible to require, that happiness is a good, that each person's happiness is a good to that person, and the general happiness, therefore, is a good to the aggregate of all persons. Happiness has made out its title as one of the ends of conduct, and consequently, one of the criteria of morality. Among the normative theories that tell you what you should and should not do, we have utilitarianism, which is hedonistic because it's telling you what you should do is seek pleasure, avoid pain for not only yourself, but everyone that you're counting. And whatever you do is justified so long as the consequences are good. The means justify the ends.